Inside Scoop. I'm Rick Morelli. Well, 2011 was certainly an exciting year, and I'm sure that 2012 will be just as exciting. Tonight, we're going to recap as to the hot issues that took place around our area in 2011 and give you some of our predictions as to what to expect in 2012. I'm here with my two co-hosts tonight, Dr. Dave Sosar and Mike DeCosmo. And gentlemen, again, it's been another exciting year, a lot of things going on here in the greater Hazleton area. And I think, as we always do at the end of the year, we want to recap as to some of the highlights and some of the things that we'll see take place next year. And we'll start at the top. Let's talk a little bit about Lou Barletta. Tara Toohill will be running for re-election. Unfortunately, these two terms are only 2 years. So before you know it, they're already running for re-election. But one of the key things is it's redistricting. There's new districts that they're going to be running in, and that may benefit them, it may hurt them. What are your thoughts on that?
Just based on pure numbers, Rick, if the redistricting stands as it is today, and we're doing this show December 12th, I guess there's still 2 weeks where changes can be made, or up till the end of the year where changes can be made in this. But, both Lou and Tara picked up a substantial number of Republican voters in their districts. I said in this show maybe about a half a year ago, I said we're going to see just how much respect the Republican Party has for these two freshman legislators, because by redistricting in their favor, it looks like the Republican caucuses, who are in control, they're in the driver's seat in this gerrymandering process, but it looks like they're really making an all-out effort to keep both Lou and Tara's seat, just based on the pure numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you consider especially Lou Barletta's seat, you got to remember again as well, and Mike just touched on it, the idea that it will not be announced actually until probably around January the 15th, that here's what the actual redistricting is, and it will be passed. Now that's interesting to keep in mind, because you got to remember that on January 22nd, because this is a presidential election year, so we move the primary up to April. So what will happen is you're going to have to start getting your petitions on out the very next week on January the 22nd. That doesn't give anybody a lot of time to prepare properly, to get a lot of the money that you need to run an effective campaign in the primary. And that's going to be true not only for Lou, but who's going to probably take in some of the Dauphin County area as far down west and south of us, because there's a lot of Republicans there, but also for Tara as well. If you're going to plan to run, who are you actually going to be able to run against? So, I think that's important to keep in mind.
And while you're on the topic of running, I think it's fair to say that Lou will have someone running. There's a gentleman out there, yeah, Mr. Vinsco, an attorney from the Wilkes-Barre area, who has already been campaigning. So there's at least one person out there Lou probably knows he's going to be going up against. Haven't heard anything about Tara. Sometimes with the state representatives we've seen in the past, Todd Eachus ran unopposed. That's a very good chance. But one of the things I personally like, and I mentioned to you, Mike, before, was with this redistricting on the state level here, with Tara's, it gives us an opportunity down here in the greater Hazleton area to have maybe 2 representatives. Because if this holds true, Hazel Township, West Hazleton is cut off. And you know what? It could be a good opportunity for us down here in the lower Luzerne County, greater Hazleton area, to have possibly 2 people, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, conceivably, the way they're currently dividing up Hazel Township, someone could run from the, let's say, the Eagle Rock section, mm-hmm, which would be a new district. It would no longer be part of Tara's, would be part of Tara's district, but then someone could run from the 2nd district of Hazel Township, which is now Jerry Mullery's district. Right. And again, 2 people from Hazel Township, or 2 neighbors from Hazel Township, could both have representatives from the 1st district. So theoretically, really could work in our favor.
Yeah. So anyway, we have a lot to talk about, but that could be certainly something good for our area. Certainly, those are 2 races that we'll be covering throughout the year, and we'll see how they move along. We said tonight we're going to go from the top down, the county level. We have a new DA, Stephanie Salvantis, who's going to be taking her job here shortly in the next year. And one of the first things we're going to see is that Solinsky case is on the plate. So she'll be getting a tough test right out of the gates.
Yeah, part of the problem there is, again, and this was, we all mentioned it that night, this was a clean the slate of anybody that had anything to do, and I'm not going to try to paint Jackie Carroll Musto with anything from the kids to cash, but certainly Stephanie Salvantis's campaign ads brought Jackie Musto Carroll into that spectrum. you know, the people spoke that night, and they wanted to clean everybody on out that was implicated in that in any manner, shape, or form. Now comes the problem, however, where you've got a DA that's going to have to be much more of an administrator, a managerial kind of person at the beginning because of the lack of experience in the courtroom. So how she handles some of these court cases right now, in the Zielinski case, you know, he certainly, he's been, if memory serves me correct, he's sitting for the life term the way it is because of some past murder charges that he was found guilty of. But this one in particular as well. And I mentioned it that night, and not in necessarily as much a joking way, but that he probably was happy that now, unfortunately, he gets himself, you know, a very good defender and sees if he can at least walk on these charges. And that's going to be a real test for Stephanie Salvantes, who she decides is going to be prosecuting that case.
Well, and again, I think one of the things everyone knew is that she doesn't have a lot of experience. That's what, as I said, she's going to have a tough test coming into this.
And one of the things, Rick, I was very disappointed from the get-go is losing Jeff Tokash. Not only because he's a Hazleton boy, but he's not going to be part of the transition team. I've heard nothing but good things about him. I mean, I could tell you the lawyers loved him, law enforcement people who dealt with him in the office loved him. So, again, bringing some different people in, trying some of these high-profile cases, I think she's going to have her work cut out for her.
Well, another thing that's going to change with the county, as we know, is the new government. It's a new home rule government, which, as you know, I'll be part of. And I'll just share with all of you.
Yes,
Yes.
Congratulate. You know, we never had a chance to officially congratulate you.
Thank you. I know. I was on a round. I was
Congratulations.
literally at Disney World that night.
That's right.
I went to Disney World. But no, it's going to be a... you know, it's going to be a challenge, and this is something new. And what I mentioned to you and mentioned to everyone else out there, people who voted for this governor are expecting change. And right now, as we speak, we're down to 5 applicants for manager, and I'll say that those 5 people are quality people that I'm very happy of the 72 we've interviewed. So hopefully things will continue to move on, and we get that key manager to run this county and make changes. But the other key point here is the budget. Right now, the commissioners handed over a budget with no tax increase. Well, I'll be the first to say I want to make sure we have no tax increase, but in order to do that, there are going to be major cuts, which even ties into the DA's office. People have to find ways to do more with less. So those are basically the 2 challenges, along with just transitioning into a new government. But I think the people in the county need to realize there are going to be things are going to change, and our hope is that they're going to change for the better out there.
Rick, I think that's what people voted for. We did have Mary Ann Petrillo on the show, Dave and I, the one evening you weren't here, I guess about a month ago, and one of the questions I asked Mary Ann point blank, I said, Mary Ann, I said, you know, in terms of services, what more can be cut? And she felt the county at that point, you know, was already at bare bones. Mm-hmm. She said, I really just don't know what else can be cut out of this budget. She said, and that's going to be one of the main challenges of this new council. She said, to look and, you know, just really establish their own blueprint in terms of which offices could be streamlined. And again, one of the things we were talking about, you know, before the show, so often, unfortunately, when you go through these transitions, it's like not always an even one-for-one trade. You know, where we may have some offices where you have a manager, then 3 assistant managers, then 20 workers in the trenches. Well, maybe the salary of one of the assistant managers could cover 3 workers. So are we taking away 3 workers or 1 assistant manager? Not that I'd want to see anyone lose their job, but I mean, the fact that it's going to be interesting to see who actually is caught in the crossfires here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are going to be put under a microscope for a while. We've said it and said it many and many a times that the watermark as far as what the council is going to be expected to do and how they're going to function is really going to be set as a precedent by this first sitting county council. You know, my personal feeling is that I see some probably some conflict simply by way of some of individuals who have probably been elected there, and it will be beholding to you guys as to how you deal with some of the conflicts and some of the differences of opinion. You know, when you start taking a look, if memory serves me correct, even with that portion of the budget that you mentioned, Mike, that we've got that goes towards the judicial branch already. You know, there's a question whether Judge Burke, as a matter of fact, was even considering the possibility of petitioning the courts or a lawsuit to keep not cut the 20%, but keep the 20% that's been talked about as possibly a slash. So I think there are going to be some definite issues to have to contend with there. That's going to be falling on the shoulders of the county council, and more importantly yet, as you've oftentimes said, is going to fall on the shoulders of this county manager. And so I'm extremely glad to hear, as I'm sure all the people out there, that we are looking at very strong quality people in that position. But truthfully, that's what it's going to take.
Well, and I will say this, and before we move on, I've had an opportunity to work with 11 people so far in our transition. Quality people who are out there working for the best. They are excited about this, and again, I think that everyone realizes, as we've been out there campaigning, we've heard the struggles of the public saying we can't do more. And I think it's our job to force the county to do more with less, and that's what we're going to try to do. And so, and we're going to be hopefully more open, and people are going to pay attention to it. So I'm excited about it. I think the public should. It's going to be an opportunity for some hope, and we'll certainly keep everyone abreast as to how we move forward throughout the year.
I think this is going to be an exciting time, and I really do believe, and Mike, I'm sure you agree with this, that this really does offer the county some wonderful opportunities to do things that maybe have not been tried before. And the county managers who, and again, my sense would be that they've held a lot of administrative and managerial positions where you do have to make these tough kind of decisions. So, one can only hope that people want change. They want to see something. They do want to see some streamline. We all know that.
Well, and that's, I think, the part of the problem is our county has been stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
This is the way we do things, and that's why I think it's critical now that we say, we clearly show that it's going to be different, and we get off. And to prove to the people in the county that, hey, we could do more with changing things up the way we did it, and I think that's what we have to do. But let's take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Inside Scoop. When we return, we'll talk about some of the other things that are going to be taking place in 2012. Stay right there. Welcome back to Inside Scoop. Gentlemen, as we're moving forward here, one of the things we talk about a lot, we've had a lot of guests on our show this year, school board. We've had school board members. There's now a new majority, I would call it. The other night, there's a new president by a vote of 5-4. I think that moving into this year, it's going to continue with the conversations we've been having with the building project. I think that's going to be probably the most important thing for the public to be paying attention. They've now purchased Hafey, Can Do. They're still without a full-time superintendent. Dr. Antonelli is there as an interim. So I guess those are some of the things that we'll be paying attention to.
Yeah, I agree, Rick. I mean, again, it looks like not the battle line's been drawn. I know school director-elect, re-elect Early was on the show as a speaker election night, and one of the things he said, there were 9 olive branches out there. He was going to try and work as one, and I think everyone goes in with that spirit of cooperation, but I think the tone's almost been set from the first meeting, although it wasn't a real contentious meeting, Dave. I know you were there. Yeah. As I said that night on the air, I think we'll see once the committee assignments come out, whether or not it's really a truly divided board, where everyone's going to have equal representation on the board, or whether there's going to be a 5-4 majority. So, with such important projects, like you said, the 2 building projects, which everyone in the community is looking at right now, the search for a superintendent, whether it's going to be in-house, whether it's going to be the fiasco they've gone through before, I think this school board is going to be watched far more closely than the school boards of the past.
Yeah.
Let me throw one more thing in there right now too that I hope I'm very much wrong with, but I'm watching a 5-4 division right now that really seems to be a 5-member majority that has really talked about challenges on the teaching staff at times. We continue to hear the rhetoric time and time again of most of our teachers are great, but we've got to always sift out the teachers that aren't doing the proper job and all that. And on the other side, you've got a number of minority members now that have come out of that teaching staff that are on the board who are really geared towards the curriculum and the education. But I think you're going to see them come at it from different angles. You're going to see one group saying, we've got to alter the teaching staff, we've got to get more people that are qualified. And you're going to see another group as teachers who are going to say, let's focus on the curriculum. Let's focus on what's best for the kids and how we're going to teach these kids, and maybe get away from the teaching to the test and not worry so much about what's been happening. One of the interesting things is if you start taking a look real close at things, and not to be a throwback to times gone by, but you start taking a look at how the gradual decline in SAT scores and scores overall have occurred in this school district. Most of the kids who came out of the early years of the Hazleton Area School District came from 3 different high schools.
Sure.
And that's when the SAT scores were at their highest.
Right.
It's only now since we've joined everything together. And that's got to make people pick up their ears and start taking a look at how can we change things and how can we make things different in this setting to bring those scores back up.
And I think you're right on. If you looked at this past election, if you remember, and I said it on our show, what was in the middle of this election were the teachers. You had 2 different groups who were at them, and one of the things that we'll be paying close attention is, as you said, how the board members treat the teachers and to micromanaging as to their expectations. But something else that we've heard from the rumor mill and the inside scoop is that there may be a new solicitor handling the negotiations, a solicitor who was in the district years ago by the name of Bruce Campbell. Now, this isn't official yet, but there's talk about this gentleman moving in, and this could get very contentious, quite frankly.
Yeah.
This is not someone who the teachers like very much, some rough waters in the past, and if this person gets in, expect a bumpy road out there, whether that's good or bad.
And I think that's for all the unionized organizations within the school district. This gentleman is known to come on in simply to do nothing more usually than to stall. At least from when I was back in the classroom on that side, I saw him literally hold up in negotiations for approximately 3 years. It wasn't until that 4th year that really any kind of negotiations were finalized.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was on the board when we had Bruce Campbell as our labor attorney. Dave was in the classroom, and again, as Dave correctly stated, it wasn't a time when there was great harmony between the teachers and the school board and the administrators. But one of the things that Rick, and again, I'm certainly not taking anything away from Attorney Campbell's negotiating skills, but again, he's from Pittsburgh. And this came up when I was there, but you go hire these high-powered out-of-town attorneys, I can still remember the bills for travel time, for out-of-town phone calls, and when you see yourself spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, to save dollars here, a lot of times I like to look at the cost-benefit analysis, and we have a lot of good attorneys locally.
And that's what has to be paid attention. That's my pet peeve is when you're paying those little fees here and there, and you see board members cutting the small programs and nitpicking on little things within whether it's athletic programs or things that affect the kids or local community. That's the thing. So you're 100% right, and that's what comes down to the budget. Looking at those things. So we'll be paying attention to that, and again, with the school district, always something taking place, and we'll do our job to keep people informed. Our last show, Hazleton City. We had 2 new council elected. The new council is going to be changed. You have Mayor Yanuzzi, now full-time mayor. Certainly the city of Hazleton has its challenges, budgets. They just approved the budget that was approved that should have had some type of a tax increase, but they didn't approve the tax increase.
No, so automatically it makes for an unbalanced budget because the revenues that you expected to keep a balance with your expenditures don't match up. Mm-hmm. So the city council is going to have to, now, and please keep in mind that while the law says that they have to come up with something by way of December 31st, because of a new council coming on in, this new sitting council will have until February the 15th to be able to tweak, change, alter in some way what it is that they're going to do. So For all intents and purposes, it may very well be an exercise in simply accomplishing something to get a budget by the end of this year. But certainly the city of Hazleton has its problems. We read about right now some of the monies that the city has been experiencing the last couple of years, like the land, or not the landfill, but the fill up in the Hazleton redevelopment area, the $600,000 that they were getting there, that they're now going to be losing in the not too distant future. New contracts that have been negotiated, problems, all around. All you got to do is take a look around the city. Certainly
And the
more
question
cameras
we
and
mentioned
police.
before is the water company going to debate going to come up again? We asked that to Council-elect Keith Bast, and his thoughts were most likely you could see that.
Yeah, he said, and he said it correctly, he said that debate's been around for over 20 years. Both he and Ms. Smope, though, did say that night on the program that they were both opposed to selling at this point, which, again, I think when we had Mayor Nuzzi on, he said that would be one of his goals, to divest himself of the Water Authority. So, again, I think there's going to be some battling there between City Council and the Mayor in terms of where the revenues are coming from. Just one thing I want to mention along with that, Rick, that and the city has to do everything, and they have to do everything legally they can to generate revenues. And I don't know if you guys get calls after these shows, but at least I know people are watching. But right after the last show, I got a call. We had that snowstorm, I guess, with about 3 or 4 inches. And this one resident from down around 17th, 18th, and Alter Street called me and he said, Mike, he said, I'm just telling you, he said, my car got ticketed. He said, I got a $75 ticket, me and all my neighbors, and I've never seen a more aggressive ticketing policy. And I said, well, the city needs revenue, but I don't know if we're even going to see some kind of stepped up effort like that on the part of the city.
And I have to say, Mike, and I think you've hit on this, and you made, well, and also yourself, Dave, there are a lot of new businesses that are coming into town, and people have to start questioning these new businesses coming in and the tax base staying the same. And that has to be the challenge. And someone has to step up to the plate here and make some tough decisions.
See, some of the things that you're going to need is the licensing and permitting and signage and all that. And the city has to really become even more aggressive. And I think that there's areas, not that you want to generate money for the simple sake of revenues coming in, but you have a code enforcement group that really needs to be on top of things in this city to make sure that everybody pays their fair share for the services that are being rendered. Along with that, and let me just toss it on out, I would hope that a marriage still can be continued between the city authority and the city. My personal feeling is that there's a lot more things that the authority can be doing as far as collections, as well, with new computer systems, new personnel that you can do, and I'm sure that it's there.
Absolutely. And Mike, real quick, Hazel Township, you're the spokesperson or one of the spokespeople. I'll say, how are they doing, and what do you expect there in 2012?
Hazel Township, I'd encourage everyone just to move into Hazel Township. But once again, I'm proud to say a balanced budget, no tax increase. We're building new roads, we're building new bridges. It's a community on the move with an expanding tax base. So another great year for Hazel Township.
Challenges. So when you go to the Hazel Township meeting, and they'll feel good that there are no problems there.
5-minute supervisor meeting, no fights. It couldn't be better.
Well, that's good. Well, before we end tonight, and I'm sure this is going to be a big topic next year. 2012 is a presidential year, and will Barack Obama be retained as president of the United States, and who will he be running against? Who's first? Mike?
You always throw me first with the tough ones. Right now, Rick, if you're to believe polling numbers, 45% of the people in this country approve of Barack Obama, 45% don't. It's almost been like that for about 3 months now, 10% undecided. The good news for him is Congress only has a 9% approval rating. So he's doing 500% better than Congress. So if you're going to blame the Republicans for Congress, then his chances are probably pretty good.
And the Republican Gingrich, Romney, who do you think is going to be the person?
Oh, my gut feeling right now is Gingrich. I really do. And I think that would be Obama's easiest candidate. I think Romney would be very difficult for him to beat.
Okay. Dave?
You know what, it's so difficult for me still to come on up with, and certainly it's between Romney and Gingrich. My personal feeling is that, and we've talked about this a little bit, Romney probably has a better chance of running against Obama. Gingrich probably has a little bit better chance of, at present time, getting the nomination, just the way it is. Having said that, right now the numbers actually are playing into Barack Obama's favor. As long as unemployment continues to drift down, it's got to get down a little further. They would be better off if it at least is only at 8 or even down into the 7s, somewhere along the way. If he can look at that and he can look at a stronger overall economic footing for the country, I think, while I would not be terribly overjoyed by it at this point because of some of the other possibilities in legislation, I think he chances are would be the winner.
My prediction is at the end of the day on the Republican side, you're going to have Romney. I believe that Romney will come out ahead. I think it's like a horse race up and down. Sometimes it's like the stock market, but I think Romney will come out ahead. But my opinion is, as a Republican, Barack Obama is going to be elected. I said this years ago. One thing he is a great campaigner. Yeah. And right now we are not in the midst of the campaign. What we're seeing are the Republicans going at each other. And Barack, what he's good at and where he shines is when he campaigns. And I think that when you see him out there, I think he's going to have enough to get him reelected. Not saying that I'm supporting it. I'm saying what I think is going to take place. So
take a look at Scranton. Take a look how well he performed up there.
Yeah, so we will see. But again, gentlemen, it's been a great year. I wish all of you a great 2012, happy and safe. And we want to wish all of you out there a happy, safe holiday season, a great 2012, and we will see you next year. Have a great evening.